Listen to Alfred.
Proposals for making Shaftesbury a cycle-friendly town have been shared with Planet Shaftesbury. On Thursday night, the environmental group's members learned that a cycling circuit could be in place by summer.
By building this local route and advertising it and signing it will enable a lot of people that wouldn't otherwise have been cycling to cycle.
The Shaftesbury Neighbourhood Plan consultation revealed that residents wanted to enhance walking and cycling routes. Policies in that planning blueprint reflect the calls for car-free routes, which link all parts of Shaftesbury to the town centre and major public amenities. Last May, Walking for Health group leader Peter Wells and cyclist and GP David Grice plotted what they believe to be the safest circular route around the town. Shaftesbury Town Council business manager Bree Logan is overseeing this project.
Hello everybody, I think I know most of you in the room.
A map on the overhead projector outlined this first stage of the network, effectively a Shaftesbury ring road for cycles. If travelling clockwise, cyclists would be encouraged to drop down Hawkstein Lane, ride along St James Street and towards Breach Lane into Enmore Green. They would then pedal along Yetman's Close to New Road and switch back into town past the Bupa Dentist. Cyclists would leave the town along Bell Street, crossing Christie's Lane at the traffic lights by the fire station. Their ride would continue along Winkham Lane, off-road past 10 Acres to Thomas Hardy Drive and onto the Maltings passing the Spa Shop. Cyclists would travel alongside the A30 to the Royal Chase roundabout and would complete the loop near Butts Mead. David Grist believes this network will prove popular.
I hope so, because it links all of the local schools, so it'd be good if we can get more children cycling to school because they've got relatively safe routes to use. The route we've got doesn't go along any busy roads, it's all either quiet roads where people are driving quite slowly or some of it's off-road. And it links up a lot of the children's playgrounds and the swimming pool.
Some residents are understandably concerned about cycle safety, so the plan has tried to avoid busier A roads like Grosvenor Road and also Christie's Lane, which it crosses but doesn't follow. Bree explained that a cycle route along the A350 from Littledown to Grosvenor Road and towards the town centre is being considered. There are also plans to create a bike lane separate from the traffic along Christie's Lane. The existing cycle route past Picksmead Gardens will be extended so riders can safely reach Allen Road and the Maltings. As a GP, David understands the importance of children being encouraged to cycle. A discussion during the meeting heard that the national statistic is that only 2% of kids ride bikes. David would like a bigger cycle riding take-up amongst Shaftesbury school children.
One of the biggest problems for public health is childhood obesity and lack of exercise in children, so this is ideal to address that, and that helps their emotional health as well, makes them more emotionally resilient if they're getting out and getting exercise and getting some fresh air rather than looking at a smartphone all the time.
John Rutter arranges regular cycle rides around Shaftesbury, and he believes that if peer pressure could encourage kids to cycle, that could get cars off the roads.
Having a publicised cycle route to the schools can only be good, and if we can build on that to make them want to cycle to school, then that takes cars off the street, and it's a snowball. The more that people cycle, the more children cycle, the more of their mates who want to cycle, and the more they'll use their bikes.
Although much of the discussion centred on locals' use of bikes, David understands the visitor appeal of pedalling around our town.
It's a tourist thing as well. We can attract people to come and visit Shaftesbury with the prospect of being able to cycle around a fairly safe route around the town and visit the beautiful sights.
Of course, some attendees mentioned the downside of cycling around our hilltop town, the hills. Planet Shaftesbury member Sue Clifford didn't want our terrain to be seen as a negative point. She says she often watches the Purbeck peloton riders ascend Gold Hill, and she sees the potential for cycle tourism. David and John both believe we need better onward connections for cyclists.
I think this local route, circular route, is good. The challenge is to try and join it up with routes into and out of Shaftesbury for cyclists, especially getting out to the east and the southeast, and the south is challenging because of busy roads and hills.
But once you get to the bottom of the hills in Shaftesbury, it's basically flattish all the way to Bullbarrow, the other side of Child Oakford. So you can go a long way once you get off the hill that's reasonably flat.
Bree explained that engagement with neighbouring communities would attempt to extend the network further. The neighbourhood plan can only consider policies within the parish of Shaftesbury, so external routes would require a special project. That second stage was being proposed. Bree was asked whether a cycle route to Gillingham was feasible. She said that idea had been discussed for a decade, but private land ownership had been the biggest stumbling block. One attendee believed that Motcombe Council had now given up on forging a cycling link to Shaftesbury and was concentrating its efforts on a link with Gillingham. Bree said that Dorset Council's dedicated cycle officer is fully on board with the first stage Shaftesbury plans, and the National Cycle Network, Sustrans, has also been consulted. When the weather improves, the Dorset Cycle Officer will be invited to walk the circuit, and then, if Town Council has approved the plan, it will be presented to Dorset Council. If they endorse the scheme, it's hoped that the route will be officially introduced using temporary signage by the summer. The Town Council intends allocating around £10,000 towards the first stage of the project. Some of the cash could be spent on signage, although Sustrans might be able to help with temporary signs. Council cash or grants could be secured to buy more cycle racks. Bree noted that the Abbeyview Medical Centre has recently added bike parking facilities. One Planet Shaftesbury member suggested that electric charging points for e-bikes should be considered because of the hills, and Sue Clifford did suggest water stations for cyclists. Bree said that Dorset Council plans to digitise the county's cycle route maps and put them online. She hopes that if Shaftesbury Circuit is given the green light, local and visiting riders could one day discover and follow the route on an app. The Town Council will debate the proposals within the next 2 months.
Listen to Alfred.